For 3 years, Ethan Harper, the husband I once thought would stay with me forever, has betrayed this marriage. Tonight, I used alcohol to pull Philip Kane, Ethan's greatest enemy, into our bedroom. The room was drenched in dim light. Philip was there, his breath hot, his strong hands pulling me into him. His kiss was fierce, like it wanted to burn everything down, filling the emptiness inside me with raw intensity. The air was thick, heavy with the smell of wine and his cologne. The sound of stockings tearing under his hand rang sharp, like a declaration that I was about to cross a line. I closed my eyes, letting the rushed breaths crash into each other, until suddenly the phone rang. Ethan's name lit up the screen, like a blade slicing through the haze of alcohol. My hand trembled as I tried to silence it, but the liquor blurred my mind, and my clumsy finger pressed answer instead. His voice, calm, detached, slipped into my ear like a cold knife. "The Hillside Estate," he said, his tone flat like ordering food. "Bring me a box of Lilo Hex." The world stopped spinning. The air in the room, hot just seconds ago, turned to ice. An invisible hole opened in my chest. Not painful, just cold. Cold to the bone, like a freezing wind rushing through every vein. The Hillside Estate, where his mistress was staying. For 3 years, from the secretive phone flips, Ethan gradually shifted to blatant disrespect, bringing home strange lipstick stains like trophies, even once casually asking me, "What branded gifts do 18-year-old girls like?" Ethan had trampled me underfoot. And now, at 11:39 at night, he dared to ask me, his legal wife, to deliver Lalo Hex to him and his mistress. I froze, my breath stuck in my throat. Ethan Harper, the man who once swore to love me until the end of our lives. What did he see me as now? A servant? A joke? The chill in my heart spread, like my whole body was sinking into ice water. "Rip!" Philip tore off the last of my stockings, bent down, his lips brushing against my neck. My thoughts were shattered, chaotic, my fingers tightening instinctively in his hair, my breath ragged, out of control. On the other end of the line, Ethan chuckled softly, his voice smooth but cruel. "Are you mad now?" I bit hard into my finger to swallow back the sob pressing in my chest, just to keep my throat from letting out a sound. Philip leaned close, his lips tracing slowly along my ear, as if he were eavesdropping. I shoved him away, his eyes flashing with displeasure. He pulled back, but not entirely, shifting to lick gently at my ear, his hot breath making me shiver. I suspected he was doing it on purpose. Philip Kane, Ethan's enemy, wasn't some random fling. He was the weapon I chose for revenge, but now I wondered if I was turning into prey in my own scheme. A long silence stretched, heavy as a century. Then Ethan spoke again, his tone still disturbingly calm. "But I'm used to that kind." And then, a woman's giggle came through, louder and louder, until it was right against the microphone. "Ethan, you're so bad. Aren't you afraid your wife will be upset?" Her words twisted deeper into my chest like a knife. She laughed again, louder this time, and said, triumphant, "Don't misunderstand. We don't even need that anymore. Ethan wants me to give him a baby." My body shook violently, ice crawling over my skin, my arms instinctively wrapping around Philip's shoulders, pulling him tight against me, not out of desire, but because the cold in my heart was swallowing me whole. I craved warmth, craved someone to fill the emptiness. My eyes brimmed with tears, trembling as if one light touch could shatter me, and in that moment, my gaze accidentally locked with Philip's deep, unreadable eyes. He leaned down, kissed me hard, held me tight, his warm hand gripping my skin as if trying to pour all that strength into my very bones. His burning breath tangled with mine, like a rare flame in a winter night. Philip Kane, a man I had only met once, someone who agreed to cooperate only because we both wanted to humiliate Ethan Harper. He seemed to sense the cold eating away at me. I hurriedly tore at his shirt, greedily seeking warmth. Perhaps it was nothing more than pity. like someone lost for too long in the freezing winter sky. I trembled when our skin met, a current shooting down my spine, leaving me numb. Every sensation flooded me, my mind hazy, like falling into a dream with no escape. I turned toward the phone, my voice soft but razor sharp, like a final declaration. Sorry, I can't come. In that instant, I decisively pressed the end button. The other end fell silent. So silent I could hear my own heart pounding wildly in my chest. And then I let myself sink completely into Philip's arms, into the burning breath and the tight embrace of a stranger, a man who did not love me. But tonight, he was the only place where I could momentarily forget the cold piercing my heart. I don't know what Ethan Harper thought after I hung up, but the memory of the first time I discovered his affair surged back, so sharp it was like a knife carved into my mind. Back then, I went crazy, hair messy, eyes swollen red, lunging at him like a wounded animal. And from that night, we never slept together again. But he kept going, more blatant each time, as if my pain was his entertainment. Slowly, I learned silence. I told him not to get photographed, as if I could somehow control the collapse of myself. Every time I heard rumors about him, I swiped his card and bought useless things, as if to console myself. But for the last 3 months, I haven't touched his card at all. Love, maybe, had drained away through all the repeated disappointments. I no longer wanted to patch up the shards that had no dignity left. At the very moment when the master bedroom door was knocked on, I jumped, heart racing, my whole body stiff. Ethan hadn't come back to this house in a long time. The first time he cheated, I only found out 3 months later. Why was it, when it was my turn, when I had just gathered enough courage to step into a mistake, that I had to face exposure immediately? How cruelly ironic was that? In panic, I lunged to pull Philip, trying to shove him into the closet. But the man stood still, refusing to cooperate, even giving me a faint smile. Hide from what? Didn't you just say I'm better than him? I froze, humiliated and angry, quickly covering his mouth. You don't understand. Affairs, if they're exposed from the start, they're neither thrilling nor painful enough for Ethan Harper. At least it has to drag on for 3 months. Only then, when he finds out, does it count. My voice shook, but the words felt like excuses to myself. I knew the competitiveness in my blood was both toxic and shameful. But if I had already fallen, then I was determined to have my affair last longer than Ethan Harper's. Philip pressed his lips together, his eyes shadowed, then silently lowered his head and stepped into the closet. I slammed the door shut, taking a deep breath. Rushing to the rack, I yanked down a tight black cocktail dress, my arms trembling, but still forcing it onto my body. The cold fabric clung to my burning skin. I snapped open the cap of a Victoria's Secret bottle and sprayed frantically, the sweet, heavy scent flooding the room, masking the smell of alcohol and lingering flesh. I sprayed it on my hair, my neck, even the sheets, until the room felt suffocating, like a perfume store about to ignite. I slipped into high heels, the sharp sound of the heels hitting the floor pounding like my heartbeat, then pressed a hand to my chest, drawing a deep breath, trying to steady myself before turning the doorknob. It's late, what is it? I said, voice calm, gentle, as if nothing had happened. The door closed behind me, leaving not a single trace, like a curtain hiding all the sins. But when my eyes met the couple standing outside, my heart stopped. Ethan stood there, one arm wrapped around the waist of a young woman, her blonde hair shining, her red lips curved in a smug smile. She was the voice I'd heard on the phone, the one who had declared she wanted to give my husband a child. Ethan's eyes swept over me, without a hint of shame, only a mocking glint, as if he was waiting for me to question him. Lacey glanced at me, her eyes flashing with mockery, then suddenly raised her hand to cover her mouth and giggled. Harper, your wife dressed up so glamorously like this. She must be trying to win you back. Her shrill voice echoed deliberately, loud through the hallway. I felt my face tense for a moment, but before I could open my mouth, Lacey went on, sharp as a blade. Looks like I was right. Behind that calm face, it's not that she's bored and ready to leave, but she's pretending, pushing and pulling at the same time. She's prepared everything already, just waiting for you to reconcile with her. After speaking, she fanned her hand dramatically in front of her nose, lips curling. But this perfume is too strong. What are you hiding? I froze. Inside, I muttered bitterly. I only wanted to cover the scent of another man. Outwardly, I forced a thin, awkward smile. Ah, I accidentally broke a perfume bottle. Ethan heard that. His indifferent gaze swept over me from head to toe. Then he let out a cold laugh. A tight black cocktail dress? Instinctively, my hand reached up to the collar. Only a high neckline could hide the scattered, still-burning hickeys underneath. He stepped closer, his voice low, cold. Black stockings? Reflexively, I retreated half a step. The long dress brushing my ankles was enough to cover the tear Philip had ripped. But in Ethan's eyes, every small detail was suspiciously exposed. High heels? His eyes dropped to my feet, the corner of his lips curving. I was speechless. Yes, from the front door all the way to the bedroom, neither Philip nor I had been in the right state of mind to switch to house slippers. Ethan half smiled, half smirked, turning his face toward Lacey as if sharing a private joke with her, then suddenly shoved me hard against the wall. His rough hand clamped down on my shoulder, his body pressing close, his breath reeking of alcohol blowing straight into my face, thick with the stench of his debauchery. "What's so humiliating about bowing your head to your husband?" he hissed through clenched teeth. "You acting like this just makes things awkward." I turned my head away, my whole body filled with disgust. I pressed my hands to his chest, shoving with all my strength. "You're mistaken. Dressing up doesn't have to be about seducing a man. Sometimes it's just to please myself." And in that moment, from the tiny earpiece hidden under my long hair, Philip's low, husky voice came through, softened to the lowest whisper. "And for me, too." Just one sentence, light as air, but enough to make the corner of my lips tremble and my eyes soften. Before I opened the door, Philip and I had synced our phones, turned on the listening mode through Bluetooth earbuds in case something unexpected happened. Yet he took this chance to tease me. Strangely, those words eased the heaviness in me, even just a little, like a faint light slipping through the night. Ethan flinched for a split second, then quickly turned his shock into a grim smile. Yanking my hand tight, his voice stretched thin. "Very good, Taylor. Keep that mouth of yours hard like this. It's late. Tonight Lacey will stay here." I was stunned, panicked, throwing my arms across the doorway. "Anywhere else, but not this room." I heard my own voice trembling, choked in my throat. From the tension, I blinked hard, and a single eyelash fell into my eye, stinging until tears spilled uncontrollably. Ethan faltered briefly. My eyes were bloodshot, and in that moment, he mistook it as me still caring, still seeing the master bedroom as sacred. Arrogance flared in his gaze, laced with mockery. "Then go to sleep early." He stared straight at me, unblinking, his look heavy as if to pierce through the calm shell I wrapped around myself. I stayed silent. He wrapped his arm around Lacey again, pulling her toward the room next door. "We'll keep it down." Lacey looked back, her eyes dripping with triumph, her lips curled in ridicule. Ethan frowned, sneered, then suddenly smacked her hard on the hip. Lacey giggled, and he casually slammed the door shut, leaving me frozen in the hallway. And in that very moment, from behind me, the master bedroom, a very faint sound came. The closet handle clicked open. A strong arm suddenly reached out, wrapping firmly around my waist. Before I could catch my breath, I was yanked forcefully inside, the door closing tight behind me with one decisive pull. Philip pressed me into the corner, his body like another wall enclosing me, his strong arms locked tight around my waist, holding me in a position that felt like imprisonment. In front of me was his broad, solid chest, every rise and fall of his breath pounding straight into mine. In that moment, the grief that had been smoldering for so long felt erased, replaced by a kind of overwhelm, so close, so real, enough to soothe the deepest cracks of a broken heart. His throat shifted slightly, the veins in his neck stood taut, his lower body tensed, like a beast hidden away too long, ready to pounce. Yet his eyes pretended calm. The pupils darkened as he leaned close to my ear, his deep voice spilling out in low, pounding beats, each word like a knock. Now, just one wall between us. Do you still want to keep going? His hot breath rushed into my ear, harsh, heavy, burning straight into my eardrum. I rose on my toes, brushed a fleeting kiss against his lips, then opened my mouth, my voice soft but sharp as a knife. Of course! Didn't my husband just brag? This place is soundproof? Instantly, Philip was ignited. He gripped my waist hard, captured my lips in a violent kiss, not giving me a chance to resist, taking over piece by piece, every corner of me. The shut door turned the room into a separate world, and in the still night, there was nothing but the sound of skin colliding, breaths crashing like they wanted to rip through the wall, separating us from the room next door. The cloying perfume still lingered, mixed with the heat of bodies, like an invisible hand stroking, provoking every nerve, making me dizzy, making me want to cry and laugh all at once. Between frantic kisses, Philip pulled back, biting lightly at my ear, his voice hoarse, his hot breath sliding into my neck. Now, this is real excitement. Just one wall, him with his mistress, and you, with me. I let out a quiet laugh, the sound like a dare to myself. My arms circled his shoulders, letting both our bodies fall onto the soft bed, the cold sheets against my back like a reminder of sin. I whispered, lips brushing his. Then, give me even more pleasure. His hand slid along my arm, from the trembling shoulder down to my clenched hand. When his fingers laced into mine, 10 fingers locked tight, every space filled, I felt both held and imprisoned. In that grip, I stopped resisting. Once all restraints were torn away, desire was no longer about love or not love. It was just a fleeting thrill, a moment of surrender. I closed my eyes, letting myself fall deeper, drowning in every suffocating second mixed with sensation. Just one wall away, Ethan and Lacey were indulging all night. Just one wall away, Philip and I were also consumed in temporary temptation. I didn't know if it was revenge, competition, or simply letting myself drift into lust. All I knew was that in that night, 2 parallel worlds, one of him and his mistress, one of me and his enemy, were swallowed in chaos. And when heartbeats raced in rhythm with heavy breaths, I could no longer tell what was pain and what was pleasure. The next morning, the alarm pulled me out of my daze. My eyelids heavy, I barely opened them, and found a magnified face right in front of mine, Philip. His curly hair was a mess, a few strands falling over his forehead, his long lashes trembling slightly before those deep eyes slowly opened, gazing at me, gentle, intent. Good morning. His voice was low and hoarse, still dry with the trace of last night's alcohol, but the corners of his lips curved upward. He lay on his side, one hand propping his head, so relaxed that for a moment I forgot every chain outside this room. Last night? Satisfied? His tone was full of service, his eyes mischievous, teasing. I hesitated, then let out a quiet laugh, nodding slightly. You did well. Philip's smile widened, his whole face lighting up. As long as you liked it. The room seemed to grow warmer until a noise came from the living room. I suddenly remembered. Ethan. Both Philip and I looked at each other in confusion. He sat up straight, his hand clenched, thrusting his muscular arm in front of me, the muscles taut and bulging. Don't worry, I can beat him. I sighed. Fighting wasn't the problem. If we were caught right here in bed, this game would end instantly, everything I'd set up turning to ash. No, we absolutely cannot get exposed now. I yanked him back down onto the bed. Philip raised an eyebrow, his messy hair sticking up in tufts, his left shoulder marked with a bite, his chest scratched all over. He clicked his tongue. So, I have to hide in the closet again? My face burned red, my hand instinctively pushing him flat against the bed, my voice low but firm. No need. Just stay right here. Don't step outside. I rushed into the bathroom, splashing cold water onto my face, trying to wash away the chaotic traces on my skin. I opened the wardrobe. Still only the same tight black cocktail dress from yesterday. The high heels were tossed carelessly on the floor. No time to think about it. I padded out barefoot, every step icy against the wooden floor. Ethan was already sitting at the dining table. He looked up, glanced at me, then suddenly stood. Gone was the hostility of the night before. His hand pulled a pair of soft fur slippers from under the table and placed them at my feet. His voice was intimate, even tinged with tenderness. "Why don't you like wearing shoes anymore?" As if for a moment we had gone back to the past, the time when he was still gentle, caring, but that was the very thing I could no longer bear. I inhaled deeply, pushed the slippers aside with my foot, and sat across from him, eyes fixed on the glass of water on the table so I wouldn't have to meet his gaze. "Ms. Nora, please prepare another breakfast for me." The woman in the kitchen answered cheerfully. "Yes?" My cold tone made Ethan's face darken for a second, but then he suddenly smiled, satisfied. "She's gone." He moved around, sat down beside me, his rough hand seizing mine, his thumb stroking over the back like a claim of ownership. His eyes glinted with arrogance. "My wife really is generous. But you don't have to go this far. I won't let her surpass you." I bit my lip hard, staying silent. Ethan Harper, always the same, exactly like a tyrant with moods that swung without warning. One day he ripped my heart apart, left me bleeding. The next day he played the good man, smearing balm on the wound, as if all pain could just fly away with the wind. But me, I remembered. For 2 years of marriage, I finally got pregnant. This child was the result of so many hopeless treatments. It was the blood, tears, and hope of 3 IVF attempts coming true. Yet, on the day I should have been holding my husband's hand at the prenatal appointment, he didn't show up. Instead, I received an anonymous message. Inside were cold lines listing dates, times, and places of his affairs, accompanied by clear photos. My heart raced. My hand shook so hard the phone slipped to the floor. The screen's glare washed over my pale face. When I actually went to that place and caught him with another woman, I went insane. A scream tore from my chest like it ripped my lungs, but all I met was the betrayer's calm. He would send me sweet love messages, then lie in another woman's arms right after. I couldn't bear it. I had an abortion. I asked for a divorce. But the irony was that the one who actively cheated was the one who refused to let go. Ethan looked at me with ice-cold eyes, then calmly called both our parents over. That day, both families sat down, the long table draped in white, the warm light falling on each face. Yet no one stood with me. Ethan's parents scolded me with stern faces, called me sulking, said I was cold-blooded and cruel to destroy the baby. My parents forced smiles, hurried to make peace, then turned to scold me for being stupid and impulsive. Those words fell like hammers driven straight into my chest. Ethan sat silent for a long while, watching me like a superior watching a farce. Then he stood, sighed, his voice low, pretending to be magnanimous. "I forgive you. Can you forgive me too? Don't throw away our love over this small thing. Besides, our 2 families are cooperating. Do you want to ruin everything?" A fake apology wrapped in a threat. Every gaze turned away from me, while Ethan's face showed a hint of satisfaction, the corner of his mouth lifting. "Shall we make up?" I looked straight at him, a cold smile forming on my lips, even as tears poured down. There won't be a next time. In that moment, a vow sounded in me that no one would ever hear. "Ethan, I will not let you go easily. I want your heart to bleed drop by drop, to feel the betrayal hollow out your insides like the gap inside me." I pulled my hand away from his, lifted my chin, my voice so calm it felt strange even to me. "I remember you once said, We could try an open relationship, so now I want to try too. How about that? I stressed each word, looking straight into his dark eyes. Maybe. Then I'll understand you. Ethan's face darkened. He snorted, a harsh laugh. Upset? Or is this your new trick? Want to make me jealous? Want to make me furious? He suddenly swept the cutlery off the table, metal clattering loudly. Taylor, if you dare to actually sleep with someone else, we will never be able to go back. I sat still, composed, without a flicker of emotion. That very silence made him angrier. Ethan ground his teeth, his eyes reddening. Our marriage has problems. You have responsibilities too. You're always so tough, always keeping face, never humble, never a gentle word. Instead, you often say things that hurt me. He suddenly jumped up, the chair thrown back, teeth clenched. Keep going like this. When you stop loving me, you'll regret it. But when I watched his furious back leave, I smiled. Ethan, you were wrong. Love died the moment you betrayed me. Now the only thing I want is to see the career you're proud of collapse into ruins. I want you to regret it every day, to lose sleep every night, to dream and never escape the remorse of betraying me. I hadn't even steadied my emotions when Miss Nora walked over with a sigh. Her slow footsteps echoed on the wooden floor as she placed the extra breakfast dish I'd requested onto the table, then bent down to pick up the glittering shards scattered across the ground. Guilt washed over me, my voice soft. Sorry for troubling you with more work. Before the words were finished, her hand suddenly froze. Nora's eyes lifted, stunned, staring past my shoulder, where Philip appeared from the master bedroom like a gust of wind, hair disheveled, shirt unbuttoned, the cut of his muscles visible. Blood rushed to my face, heat burning my cheeks, and I quickly stepped forward, lowering my voice. Ms. Nora, could you please not mention this outside for now? Nora burst into laughter, shaking her head as she winked repeatedly. I get it. I won't say a thing. She covered her mouth, giggling, her whisper mocking but light. So exciting, you young ones really know how to play. Then she turned, still chuckling, and walked out casually. Philip pulled a chair close beside me, pretending as if nothing was unusual, but his voice was laced with expectation and a thread of unease. That thing. What you said just now about an open relationship, you only said that to provoke him, right? You two will actually divorce, won't you? He leaned slightly toward me, his hand tugging at his collar, his tone a strange mix of domineering and awkward. After what happened between us, you have to divorce and be with me. I looked at him, torn between exasperation and laughter. One night's sleep, and he already grew possessive. I shook my head lightly, my voice calm. Divorce? We only planned to drive him mad, to make him feel betrayed. If I divorced, where's the fun in that? Philip's face darkened instantly, his smile gone, replaced by a gloom like endless rain. Yeah, only I can make him hurt the most. That's why you came to me, isn't it? I stayed silent. Yes, that was the original reason. But now, I couldn't even tell if I was pulling him into this game out of hatred or because I craved warmth. I avoided his gaze, letting my mind drift to what I already knew. Philip, a man from an old money dynasty, a century-old family line, while Ethan was just a newly rich upstart. They were never from the same world, no reason to cross paths. Yet after Ethan's infidelity, contracts that once felt certain suddenly got canceled, old partners grew cold, refused renewals. Through the detective, I learned, Philip had publicly declared, I don't cooperate with cheaters. He even listed all the reasons why men who betray can't be trusted. And with those arguments, he appeared at every major event, always hinting, sometimes even calling Ethan out by name. Under his insinuations, my husband's business faltered. Every contract signed came at the cost of bleeding profits. Ethan would come home raging, screaming curses at Philip Kane of every kind. That was the first time I learned of this man's existence. Last night, I pretended to be wounded beyond reason. The liquor just a tool. I leaned on his shoulder, breath close to his lips, smiling suggestively. I hear you and my husband are sworn enemies. Want to make him suffer with me? Philip hadn't hesitated for even a second, nodding in agreement. But after the night passed, when I looked into his eyes this morning, I suddenly felt curious. I asked, serious, tell me the truth. Why do you hate him so much? It can't just be because of cheating. Philip lifted his eyes. They were deep, and at the bottom, something churned quietly. He looked at me for a long, long time, making my heart falter. Then his voice came, soft, helpless, carrying an indescribable bitterness. This is something you'll never know. I stayed silent. Fine. If he didn't want to say, I wouldn't press. I curved my lips, half smile, half indifference. If you don't want to say, then forget it. Until next time, I picked up my phone, sent a message asking leave from my kickboxing trainer, my fingers trembling slightly, but my eyes already calm again. Then I turned away, walking back into the master bedroom, leaving Philip sitting there, his eyes still following me, complex and unreadable. A long sleep carried me into the evening, and I woke with a jolt from the feeling of someone holding me tightly. Irritated, I turned, hand raised to strike. Ethan, how dare you? But wait, that wasn't Ethan. Messy curls, a handsome face still touched with sleep. Philip. I froze, blurting out, "Why are you still here?" His eyes half closed. He lazily rubbed his head against my arm, voice hoarse and drowsy like a whining child. Tired? Just one word, yet instantly my face flushed red. I quickly pulled the blanket over him, my trembling hand smoothing the corner as if I were caring for someone familiar for a long time. Sleep, sleep, I whispered, turning away with my hand pressed to my forehead, exhaustion on my face. A bitter thought crossed my mind. Has cheating really become this brazen now? Even staying in someone else's home, taking over their bed, turning my space into his territory? That night, Ethan didn't return. Instead, Philip cheerfully rolled up his sleeves and joined me in the kitchen to cook dinner. The warm light fell, steam rising from the beef, his hands quick with the knife on vegetables, while I stood beside him, laughing for the first time at a man clumsily mixing seasonings as if he were conducting a chemistry experiment. After eating, the two of us sat on the rug, leaning against the sofa, watching a bland romance film neither of us paid attention to. Only silence, broken by occasional quiet laughter, softened the room that had always felt cold. When night came, I thought he would go home. But no. After washing up, Philip casually climbed onto the large bed in the master bedroom, lay on his side, and patted the space beside him, signaling me. I stood frozen at the door, scratching my head, unable to understand what was happening. This man seemed far too practiced in the role of lover. The next morning, the smell of food filled the house. When I opened the door, Philip was carrying a breakfast tray, set out like a devoted husband. Toast, fried eggs, a cup of coffee. Eat, he said, smiling brightly, so simply that I hesitated. This felt truly not right. Waiting until Ms. Nora went out, I sat at the table and tested him. Maybe I should move to your place? Philip immediately looked up, eyes lighting. Of course. I'll pack things for you. I tilted my head at him, uneasy. Why did this feel so strange? Without a pause, he rolled up his sleeves and walked straight toward the bedroom. Bring everything over. Whatever you use often, let me arrange it. But when he opened the drawer, he stopped. Empty. He opened the wardrobe. Aside from the narrow corner he once hid in, every other space was completely bare. Philip turned, eyes full of surprise, his voice lowered. You have been preparing to leave him for a long time, haven't you? I stayed silent, neither nodding nor denying. His lips curved, a smile both triumphant and unsettling. Then no need to move. I've already got everything ready at my place. My eyes narrowed, my chest tightening. That line, gentle as it was, carried a kind of force I couldn't name. I looked at Philip, the man I thought was only a temporary ally, and realized he was stepping into my life too quickly, too firmly, too naturally. Something about this was deeply wrong. This man was absolutely not as simple as the gentle exterior he showed. I moved into Philip's house. Half a month passed, and he and I lived in a secret world where hurried kisses and fierce embraces temporarily soothed the pain. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lacey flaunted their affection in public as if they wanted the whole world to know they belonged to each other. I heard they went to buy matching rings. One evening, Lacey called, gloating to provoke me. "Have you seen my new ring?" Ethan picked it. I replied with just one indifferent word. "Yeah." Nothing more, nothing less. I could almost hear the hitch in her laughter, disappointment leaking through. But it was that silence that made Ethan lose his patience. That night, he called me, his voice heavy, half jealousy, half control. "It's late. Where are you? Sulking again about something?" Before I could answer, a pair of strong arms wrapped around my waist from behind, pulling me back into a solid chest. Philip buried his head in my shoulder, his hot breath spreading over my ear. In that moment, I truly wanted to spit out one sentence, "In your enemy's bed," just to see how Ethan Harper would react. But I held it in, biting my lip lightly, then lied with a calm voice. "I'm at Dana's house, not coming back." Dana, my best friend. Ethan exhaled in relief, then went on ordering me as if nothing had ever happened. "Don't forget, tomorrow night come to the party with me." I frowned, my fingers tightening around the phone. "You're sure? You really want me to go?" But his voice was unwavering. "You're my wife. Who else would I bring?" "Oh, right. I bought you a gemstone ring. Remember to wear it tomorrow." But Philip had told me the truth. Ethan hadn't bought just one ring. He'd bought an entire set of gemstone jewelry. The necklace and earrings for Lacey, and the ring left for me. Philip had even found out that Lacey's name was on the guest list for tomorrow night's party. That meant tomorrow night, I, the legal wife, would show up wearing the ring, while she, the mistress, would glitter in the matching necklace and earrings. A public farce. A cruel way to make me the most pathetic person under the bright lights. If I still loved him, my heart would surely break tomorrow night. But right now, I just felt tired. The man who once swore to love had turned into a stranger, treating my pain as entertainment for his friends. I remembered how we loved each other for 3 years before marriage, how we fought through hardships to hold hands. I had naively thought that after everything, we would finally reach happiness. Who knew it would end like this? A play where I was the loser. So be it. Let everything end tomorrow. I answered seriously, my voice icy. "Fine. I'll definitely be on time." Like on our wedding day, before the eyes of so many, when I once smiled with happiness. Now I would smile for a different reason. On the other end, Ethan had no idea there was a storm rising inside me. His voice was casual, even carrying a hint of hidden amusement. "This time you're being obedient." What answered him was only a long, suffocating silence. I quickly hung up, my fingers ice cold, but my heart pounding violently. Tomorrow, everything would end. After I agreed to attend the party, Philip outwardly stayed calm, but the more time passed, the more he clung to me. Every embrace, every kiss left ambiguous marks on my skin, like a reckless declaration. The next morning, when I looked in the mirror and saw the dense red traces, my face remained expressionless as I squeezed some foundation onto my hand, ready to blend it in to hide them. But before I could, Philip wiped it away with one swift, domineering motion. I turned my head, looking at him helplessly, sighing, "Don't be like this. It's really a little childish." He smiled, his eyes gleaming. "Not at all. I just wanted to give you a gift." Then he pulled out an exquisite necklace from behind his back, carefully fastening it around my neck. The cold metal pressed against my skin, but its brilliance covered every other mark, cloaking my collarbone completely. In the mirror, his eyes were serious, his voice dropping low. Whether it's a necklace or anything else, you deserve the best. Before I could react, he bent down on one knee and solemnly slid a gemstone ring onto my ring finger, the large stone dazzling enough to leave me frozen. The man's intentions were becoming clearer and clearer. I lowered my eyes, my voice quiet. I'll go to the party with Cody. If he's using another woman to humiliate me, I can't let myself lose. Cody, Philip's cousin. Philip tugged at his tie, his eyes darkening with displeasure. So I'm not the best choice? I laughed softly, tilting my head to place a short kiss on his lips. You're the ultimate weapon, meant to be saved for the very end. That evening, I didn't let Ethan come to pick me up, but I still deliberately wore the ring he had bought me. When Ethan saw it, his eyes flickered for a second, but he quickly hid it, only pretending to be polite as he extended his hand to me. I gave him a faint smile, unmoving. At that exact moment, Philip entered from another direction, striding quickly toward me, his voice loud and clear. Ms. Lee, forgive me, but I think your neck is too beautiful to be covered up. I half smiled, glancing at him. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Kane. Between us, our eyes met. A vague spark flaring, something only the two of us could understand. Ethan stood beside me, so angry his hand shook. Mr. Kane, saying that to my wife in front of me, don't you think that crosses the line? Philip shrugged, answering calmly. Sorry, but I've secretly liked a girl. Yet her husband cheated for 3 years, and she still hasn't divorced him. I'm too impatient. Then he tilted his head toward me, his deep eyes making my heart stutter. In that moment, a rush of memories surfaced. We really had gone to the same high school, exchanged a few words, then lost touch after college began. I froze, flustered, asking back, Mr. Kane, are you defending me? Don't worry, I won't let someone else's mistakes hurt me. Ethan noticed the shift in my face, sneered, and yanked me into a shadowed corner. His voice was both anxious and mocking. He's only approaching you because of me. Out of jealousy, he's trying to provoke me. Don't tell me you actually believe he likes you. Taylor, you're over 30, married before, had an abortion. Stop indulging in such ridiculous fantasies. His finger jabbed at my face, emphasizing each word. My hands clenched tight, and all I could force out was one single sentence. Then, what does he have to be jealous of you for? Ethan let out a dry laugh, lifting his chin. Yes, he was born into a wealthy family, but all of that came from the generations before. Me. I built everything from nothing, stood on my own 2 feet. That's what deserves pride. I was stunned. For the first time, I saw Ethan's arrogance laid bare. Turns out, because of love, I had blinded myself to it before. But now, with love dead, I finally saw his true face. The essence of infidelity is greed and selfishness, and all the words he had ever said about love, about forever, about only loving me, only had value when he was still poor. I silently clenched my fists, feeling like I was about to break, when Lacey appeared. She wore a tight dress, each step proud and deliberate, her eyes dropping straight to the ring on my finger, her smile curling with mockery and malice. Ethan, without a shred of pity left, openly wrapped his arm around her waist, right in front of me, under the gaze of so many people, and together they walked the red carpet into the hall. The air seemed to pause for a beat, whispers rippled softly, and I simply smiled faintly, tilting my head toward Philip, who was standing not far away. He gave a slight wave, signaling to a young man beside him to come forward. I immediately linked arms with him, raising my head high as I walked in. But Ethan was different. His face darkened, seeing it as humiliation. He yanked me into a hidden corner. His voice grated, each word full of insult. She's not wrong. You're just trying to get back at me by clinging to some other guy right in front of me. What is that, if not desperate and pathetic? I let out a cold laugh, raised my hand, and slapped him across the face, the blow snapping his head to the side, leaving him staring at me in disbelief. In that hateful glare, I lifted my dress and drove my foot straight into him. Tears welled up, my voice choking as I screamed, "Ethan, how could you treat me this way?" I didn't stop, slamming my head into his nose, stomping my heel hard onto his foot, driving my elbow into his jaw, my knuckles pounding over and over into his chest and ribs. With every strike, I cried and shouted, "You brought your mistress to this party. You wanted to humiliate me." I raised my ring, pointing at the necklace on Lacey's neck. "What did you mean by this? You wanted to make me a laughingstock, didn't you?" I threw kick after kick, sweeping and striking, each one carrying 3 years of pent-up fury. "I won't hit her. I'll only hit you because it was your cheating that brought her into my life." My knuckles slammed into his chest, my elbows into his ribs, each blow a condemnation. "When I was 2 months pregnant, you were already cheating. You thought I'd endure it because of the baby I struggled so hard to conceive, didn't you?" Suddenly, I felt warmth around my knees. Philip had slipped off his coat and gently draped it over my exposed legs, then stood tall before me, shielding me from prying eyes. His voice rang out, cold and commanding. "This is Ms. Lee's personal matter. I hope everyone will let her resolve it herself." His tall frame blocked me completely, making everyone cautious, and for the first time, I felt strangely safe. Ethan lifted his head, his eyes darting hazily between me and Philip. "You two, you—" I leaned close and whispered, "That's right. He already took your place in our bed, the very night you brought Lacey home." Looking at Ethan's twisted face from pain, the corner of my lips curved upward. He trembled as he asked, Do you really hate me that much?" I looked straight at him, my voice cold as ice. "Yes. I hate you. From 3 years ago, when you betrayed me, I already started hating you. All the times I cried, gave in, or those indulgent shopping sprees you thought were my way of forgiving you, they were just acts I put on for you." Ethan roared, "Why?" But inside, I asked myself too, why did he cheat? Why did he use our family's partnership to trap me? Why did he have to humiliate me this far? Divorce can split the house, the car, the money, the kids, but no one can share the wound in my heart. I want justice for that wound. After leaving the party, I dumped every piece of evidence of Ethan's affairs online, especially the clip of him bringing his mistress home right in front of me. The public erupted, hot searches flooded with his name. In the dim stairwell, Philip quietly waited. He smiled faintly, asking softly, "Did you buy that hot search?" The anger of 3 years finally burst out, and I laughed, reaching out to scratch his chin lightly, praising, "You're really smart." But he immediately asked, "When will you divorce him?" His eyes glowed with excitement, but I lowered mine and murmured, "Philip, love is like a pair of shoes. At first, if it gets a bit of dust, you'll wipe it clean. But over time, even if someone else tramples it, you don't even care anymore." He froze for a moment, then suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace, his voice hoarse. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have sat still waiting for you to divorce. Even worse, I shouldn't have invested in Ethan just to help you live better. I should have fought for you from the very start." I was stunned, lifting my head to him. "Wait, you invested in Ethan?" Memories came flooding back. When Ethan's startup was collapsing and he was about to give up, suddenly an old classmate lent him a huge sum. I had thought it strange, while he arrogantly bragged that even God was helping him. Turns out, that investor was Philip. I curved my lips, whispering, "If he finds out after the divorce, just how far will he crumble?" From then on, every other day, I leaked more evidence of Ethan's affairs to keep the fire of public outrage alive. Finally, Ethan caved, sending a message to discuss divorce. I handed everything to my lawyer, and eventually, the day of court came. That day, Philip dressed even more formally than me. A striking suit, luxury watch, his hair slicked back, driving the most expensive car. Ethan tried to keep his composure, but his eyes betrayed his downfall. He looked around, sneering, "Why didn't Philip come? Isn't he desperate to marry you?" I stayed silent. But when the hearing ended and I walked out of that cold courtroom, Philip suddenly appeared. He held a bright bouquet, placing it in my hands, his smile radiant, the intricate watch on his wrist sparkling, making Ethan squint. Ethan glared at us, muttering, "You two are still together?" Philip simply replied, "Thank you for cheating. At last. You gave me a chance." Then he wrapped his arms tightly around me, guiding me into the car. Through the window, I saw Ethan standing frozen, his eyes bloodshot, as if in that instant he had gone insane. Men are strange. When a woman leaves, if she has no one by her side, they convince themselves they're not forgotten. But the moment someone else appears beside her, someone better, they lose sleep, jealousy driving them mad. Like weeds thrown away. But once someone else treasures them like a jewel, the one who discarded them realizes what he lost was actually a brilliant flower. And that was Philip's role. I had always pictured this day, but when it truly came, my heart felt hollow. I leaned my head against the car window, trying to keep distance from Philip. Silence filled the air, only the sound of the engine blending with the traffic outside. If Philip didn't have feelings for me, maybe at this moment we could have laughed out loud, clapped our hands, and shouted, "We did it!" But there is no if. I opened my mouth several times, finally whispering, "The goal's been achieved, we can end it here." I didn't dare look at him, only fixing my eyes on the little plush charm hanging in the car, still swaying from inertia. Philip pulled up under my building, this time not getting out. His voice was low, husky, quiet. Then, "I'll take you this far." I nodded, tears brimming, and whispered softly, "Thank you." If nothing unexpected had happened, my story should have ended, like a book closed and left for dust to cover. But life always has a way of sketching in new, startling strokes. I was pregnant. After 2 years of struggling with Ethan through test tubes, injections, and endless nights of clinging to disappointment, only 2 months with Philip, and a life had quietly taken root inside me. This child, like a gentle breeze, arrived without warning, carrying both hope and fear. I still remember Ethan's excuses the first time he cheated, his voice trembling but arrogant. "It's all because of you," he said, as if I were the reason for his betrayal. Because I had trouble conceiving. Because the rounds of IVF left my body swollen, irritable. Because I complained of pain and bitterness. "I was too troubled, so I went to someone else," he once said, his eyes gleaming with self-justification, as if my suffering was the excuse for his sin. And now, standing in front of the mirror, my hand resting on my belly, I felt a tiny pulse, like a whisper telling me life would go on despite the scars. My phone buzzed. Dana's voice came through the line, full of worry. "So you're really going to keep this baby?" she asked, probing, as if to drag me back into reality. I drew in a deep breath, my hand unconsciously stroking my stomach, and answered firmly, "Yes, I'll keep it." Not for anyone else, but for me, because this life was mine, a light I chose to preserve in the dark. I began packing my luggage, each shirt folded neatly, each item like a fragment of memory tucked away, preparing for a new beginning. The room still carried the faint sweet scent of that shattered perfume bottle, but now it no longer stung. It was just a reminder of what I had survived. The doorbell rang, urgent and insistent, like the racing of my heart. Philip, the reluctant father, stood outside, his eyes both anxious and determined. I opened the door, letting him in, knowing I had to explain everything. But when his gaze fell on the suitcases piled in the corner, his expression darkened, like the sky before a storm. "Taylor Lee, are you really leaving?" His voice dropped low, laced with both anger and fear. I frowned, my tone edged with irritation. "You've been listening to my calls, haven't you?" "No," Philip shot back, waving his hand sharply as if to drive away the suspicion. "The doctor you saw is my friend." He stepped closer, his arms circling my waist, his breath warm against my hair. "This time, you can't push me away anymore." I stood still, feeling the weight of his embrace, making no promises, letting silence be my only reply. No more revenge games, no more tortured calculations, just a pause. A pause to relearn how to live, to give the life inside me a beginning unchained from hate. Outside on the balcony, the breeze stirred, leaves rustled, reminding me that peace sometimes comes from letting go of what no longer belongs to you. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I had stopped looking back, stopped torturing my heart with old wounds. In that moment, I felt myself freed, not by a man, not by the success of vengeance, but by the decision to keep this life, to hold on to a piece of the future that was mine alone. I closed my eyes, letting the wind murmur outside, and told myself, freedom isn't escaping every bond. It's daring to choose what you want to keep, and calmly moving forward.